Hi everyone, in this session we'll talk about security vulnerability which is known as broken access control. The main agenda of this session is understanding what is OWASP and OWASP top 10. What is broken access control, how to exploit broken access control, and what are the preventions for broken access control. First we'll understand about OWASP and what is OWASP top 10. OWASP stands for Open Web Application Security Project. OWASP is a non-profit foundation dedicated to improving software security. It operates under an open community model, meaning that anyone can participate in and contribute to OWASP-related online chats, projects, and many more. Now talking about OWASP Top 10. OWASP Top 10 is a standard awareness document for developers and web application security. It represents a broad consensus about the most critical security risks to the web application. Broken access control, this has been there from quite a long time, and taking an example of 2021, that's when the last OWASP Top 10 were released. So OWASP Top 10 is one of, you can say, deliverables for this project. What they do is on the periodical basis they are published. Okay, so basically OWASP Top 10 is a standard awareness document for developers and web application security. In OWASP list of 2021, broken access control is on the top of the list, and you can see from history in 2017 it was in the 5th place, and now in 2021 it has moved to the first place. That means it has become more prevalent and better, that all the developers are aware of this one, and I think it's very easy to understand. OWASP Top 10 2021 list consists of broken access control, cryptographic failures, injection, insecure design, security misconfiguration, vulnerable and outdated components, identification and authentication failures, software and data integrity failures, security logging and monitoring failures, and server-side request forgery, that is SSRF. Now we'll talk about broken access control. Access control is a security mechanism to put restrictions on the accessibilities of the resources and decide who or what can view or use the resources of company. This is a checked after authentication and what authorized users are allowed to do it. It is not an easy task to do. Any failure while checking can lead to data modification or destruction of data. Access control refers to a system that controls access to information or functionality. Broken access control allows attackers to bypass authorization and perform tasks as though they were privileged users such as administrators. Improperly configured, that is, poor implementation of access control mechanism, leads to flaw access control, which can be easily exploited. This is also because of broken access control, unauthorized users can view content what they are not allowed to view, can perform unauthorized functions. Even an attacker can delete the content or take over the site administration. For example, a web application could allow user to change which account they are logged in as simple by changing part of URL without any other verification. By exploiting this vulnerability, hackers could view, modify, exfilter, and delete the data of other users and administrators, as well as modify account privileges and permissions to install malware into systems. Up for spots from previous ranking, broken access control is now the most critical web application security risk, with over 94% of applications vulnerable and a 3.81% incidence of occurrence rate. While normal users can perform only regular actions such as money transfer, administrators can perform actions that require more privileges such as deleting or modifying users. From users' point of view, access control can be classified into 3 groups: vertical access control, horizontal access control, and context-dependent access control. Horizontal access control, when users can access data of other users who have the same level of permissions as them. For example, when you log into your social media account, you are allowed to see your content and make changes to it, but you are not allowed to get access to other user accounts. However, things could go wrong if access control is flawed. Vertical access control. When users can access data of those users who have permissions to perform some actions that normal users don't. With vertical access control, different type of users have access to different application functions. For example, to perform certain functions and reach certain resources, users need to have admin privileges. A regular user doesn't have such privileges. Broken vertical access control let attackers to get access to those functionalities. Context-dependent access control is when a user is allowed to perform actions in a wrong order. For example, after buying the items from an e-commerce website, a user should not allowed to modify his or her shopping cart. Context-dependent access control doesn't allow a user to change the items after payment, but if it is broken, then the user will allowed to make changes. Impacts of broken access control. So, whenever we make an account on a website, we are given a unique ID. By using that ID, we can access the database where all our sensitive contents are saved. Suppose you have logged into a website and your user ID is 986. We have to keep in mind that, like you, everyone else has who makes his or her account on that website is given a unique user ID. So if you replace your ID with someone else's user ID, then you can get access to his or her profile. Yes, this can happen if access control is not properly implemented in the server. Hackers can take advantage of access flaws to gain access to the resources and services that should not be accessible for normal users. For example, the admin page of the web application should only be accessible to the admin and should not be available to any other users. However, if the access control is broken, then hackers can easily get access to it just by making some changes in the URL. With that privilege, they can steal other users' data or deploy malicious payloads to destroy the entire application hosting ecosystem. There are possibilities of distributed denial of service attack, that is DDoS. With access to those user accounts, attackers can attempt to disrupt the normal traffic of targeted server by deploying bots. This makes it difficult to server to distinguish legitimate user traffic from the attack traffic. Now we'll see some of the examples of broken access control vulnerability where we try to perform some actual attacks on a demo web application to exploit a various type of broken access control vulnerabilities. So this is the first example of attack. So this is a demo lab which has unprotected admin functionality. So we can access the admin panel of the web application where all the users which are signed up or already logged in are listed. So this is the web page of that of the web application. Here in the URL field, we just remove the data and add robot.txt. By using robot.txt, the file which are not allowed to show, which are set to be disallowed, are shown. So here is the administration panel path is displayed. Now we just replace robot.txt and pasted the path and hit enter. After this we'll get the users. So here are two users, Winner and Carlos. So now we have to delete the Carlos user. By just clicking on delete, the Carlos user get deleted. So the user is deleted successfully. So this is the second example of a broken access control attack where user role is controlled by the request parameter. This lab has an admin panel slash admin, which identifies administrators using a cookie. To solve this lab, we just have to access the admin panel, and by accessing admin panel, we just have to delete Carlos user. For accessing, we need credentials, and there are given credentials are Wiener as a username and Peter as a password. So in login page, we enter Wiener as a username and Peter as a password, and intercept that request in burp. So here we intercept the login page login page post request, and we send it to repeater. After sending it repeater, we forward that request, and we get a get request as my account. So we send that request also in repeater. In get request, first we see the admin cookie is set to be false and send that request by default. After sending that request, we search in response that the admin is visible or not. So here we found 0 matches. Now in a request tab in admin's cookie, we replace that admin value equals to true and send that request. After sending that request, we get 200 okay. So we'll check now for the admin, and here the admin is visible. Admin path. Now the setting admin equals to true will accessible to the /admin path. So now we try to we are logged in into Wiener, and we try to just edit that in inspect. So in cookie editor, we just change the value false to true, and after changing the value into true, we'll get we just refresh it and we'll get the my account option with admin panel option. So the admin panel option is visible. Just click on that admin panel, and here the listed users are visible. Now we have to delete the Carlos and enter delete into Carlos, and the user gets deleted. This is the third example of broken access control, where user ID is controlled by request parameter. This lab has a horizontal privilege escalation vulnerability on a user account page. To solve this lab, we just need to obtain the API key for Carlos user, and we have to submit it as a solution. So here we can use the credentials as Wiener as a username and Peter as a password to get the access of as Wiener. So here in my account tab, we just click on my account, and we redirects to the login page. In login page, we put Wiener as a username and Peter as a password, and hit that request into the burp suite. So here I'll open the intercept. It's on, and now putting the Wiener and Peter as a password and hitting that request into burp. Now the request is in proxy. We'll get the request in proxy and send that request to repeater. Now I'll forward that request and I'll get 302. Now 302 follow redirection. Now the API key is visible in response. So for we have to access the Carlos, we just simply replace the ID parameter of ID equals to Wiener parameter into Carlos. So here in get request of my account, we just edit ID equals to Carlos and hit that request. After hitting that request, in response body, we get API key for Carlos. So simply we just take that API key for Carlos and just logged in as a Carlos by taking that default request in browser as show response in browser, then adding the link in browser and getting the Carlos as a logged in. Now copy that API key and submit it into solution and just hit OK. So by submitting the API key of Carlos, our account is logged in and the lab is solved. So these are the types of attack. By using that, attacker can gain access to your confidential information and can steal your personal or important data to access some important things. So to prevent this type of attack, we have to your security team have to adopt that practices. First, continuous inspection and testing should be there. Efficient continuous testing and inspecting is the mechanism by using that mechanism by effectively detect vulnerabilities, and we can correct them as soon as possible. Also, design access control in such a way that not everyone can get access to the resources and functionalities unless it is intended to be publicly accessible. Also, by limiting CORS usage, we can make attacker to make our web application safe from the attacker. CORS is a cross-origin resource sharing protocol, provides a control way to share cross-origin resources. The implementation of CORS relies on the HTTP headers used in the communication between client and the target application. When CORS protocol is misconfigured, it makes it possible for a domain to be controlled by the malicious party to send the request to your domain. Also, restrict access to the resources located outside of a given domain by minimizing CORS. Disable web server directory listing and ensure file metadata and backup files are not present within the web routes. Log all access control failures and alert admins when appropriate. Rate limit API. Rate limit API and controller access to minimize the harm from automated attack tooling. Force all requests to go through access control checks to ensure all requests are some kind of access control verification layer.